All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most incredibly poignant and just beautifully constructed narratives out there, the silent radiance of the shoreless sea. We're going to completely break down the emotional climax and the sheer thematic weight of this story's unforgettable conclusion. I mean, if you've read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That final reunion between Aoi and Ren, it's a moment that feels intimately small, but also astonishingly vast. So we're going to dive into exactly how the text balances human frailty with this massive cosmic duty, and how the vivid imagery brings this profound reunion to life right before our eyes. Now, the absolute foundation of this entire sequence comes down to one massive number: 40. 40 years. To put that into perspective in the context of this universe, that represents 4 decades of total global peace since the devastating storms finally vanished. The world has healed, but we really can't look at this number without acknowledging its heartbreaking dual meaning. Because for Aoi, this isn't just some historical milestone in a textbook. It represents 40 years of quiet, solitary waiting, literally a lifetime. That's 4 decades of waking up, living her day, and going to sleep without the person she loves most. And that staggering passage of time, that is the anchor for everything that happens next. Section 1, the 40-year wait, a world at peace. To really get why this magic works, we've got to look at the big picture first, just to ground ourselves in the lore. So, way back, we have the era of the Great Storms, pure chaos and destruction. Then, exactly 40 years ago, we hit the pivotal vanishing, which ushered in this massive global calm. But here is the crucial piece: Aoi's quiet life. For decades, while the whole world essentially moved on and celebrated this brand new era of peace, Aoi was just suspended in her devotion. It's like the history of the world and the history of Aoi's heart have been running on 2 completely different tracks, until they finally crash into each other today, in the present day, at the reunion. So what did those decades actually look like for Aoi? The source material is remarkably specific about her day-to-day reality. She lived quietly in a house right by the sea. Every single evening, she watched the sunset. But what's absolutely crucial here is the distinctly mortal toll the passing of time took on her. The text specifically calls out her gray hair and her slow steps. She grew elderly. While the world was basically frozen in this perfect state of peace, Aoi was absolutely not frozen. She aged. She experienced the heavy, inescapable weight of being human while living out these quiet decades, waiting for someone who, honestly, might never return. But of course, the waiting does end. Section 2. The sea's gentle call, from reality to magic. So what actually kicks off this whole climax? Well, it happens on what seems like a totally normal morning, when an elderly Aoi senses a shift in the ocean's behavior. It starts calling to her. But listen to the specific language used here. The call is gentle, like that of an old friend. Think about the crazy contrast between this welcoming, tender pull and the violent, terrifying storms of the past that completely tore her world apart. The ocean isn't demanding that she come to the water, it's inviting her. And that right there is exactly why Aoi, despite her slow steps, is immediately drawn down to the shore. This brings us to a really specific sequence of supernatural events down at the shoreline. It's basically a chain reaction. First, the water becomes perfectly calm. Second, for the first time in 40 years, the sea begins to actively glow. It's this gorgeous visual manifestation of the magic waking back up. And finally, the ultimate catalyst. Aoi actually reaches out and touches the glowing water. And the very moment she makes physical contact, a figure appears. Boom. The world of the mundane and the world of the magical are instantly connected just through her touch. Section 3. A contrast of time. Mortal journey versus immortal stagnation. Now, this is where the sheer tragedy and beauty of their reunion just hits you. You've got Aoi on one side, elderly, marked by gray hair, her body completely slowed and aged by 40 unrelenting years. And on the other side, we have Ren. But Ren doesn't show up as a physical flesh and blood guy. The text describes him as a silhouette made entirely of light and ocean spray. And, most importantly, he is exactly as young as he was on the day of the Great Storm. He's completely ageless. It is this incredibly heavy, authentic human experience standing face to face with the ethereal and unchanging. It's a breathtaking contrast that tells the whole story of their separation without a single word. But words are eventually spoken. Section 4. Duty and forgiveness, the final dialogue. The emotional core of this scene rests on a brief but intensely weighted exchange. Aoi looks at Ren, laughing through her tears, and says, "You made me wait a very long time." It's such a beautifully simple line, but man, it holds an entire universe of feeling. Her tearful laughter perfectly captures that immense tension between her unshakable personal love and the incredibly painful burden of her patience. She isn't angry, not at all, but she is utterly honest about the cost of those 40 years. And Ren's response? It just brilliantly illustrates his cosmic justification. He apologizes for being gone so long, but his explanation is staggering. "I had to look after the entire ocean." Right there, we see the ultimate thematic conflict of the narrative. It's deeply personal devotion pitted against an immense, inescapable, world-saving duty. Ren didn't abandon Aoi because he didn't love her. He was bound to a responsibility so unbelievably vast that it required him to become something entirely non-human. He literally traded his mortal life to protect the world. But then Ren drops this profound realization that takes their reunion to a whole other level. He explains that the ocean now remembers all possible histories and all choices. So this isn't just a simple catch-up on a beach anymore, it's a cosmic convergence. The ocean has essentially become an archive of existence, holding the weight of everything that was, everything that wasn't, and the immense sacrifices that bought them 40 years of peace. Ren is a part of that now, and he's inviting Aoi to understand the true scale of what they're a part of. And understanding this truth, Aoi makes her final choice. Section 5, the final transformation, merging with the radiance. The way the text lays out the poetic mechanics of this moment is just incredibly reverent. Aoi, this elderly woman who has walked with slow, heavy steps for decades, she takes one final, purposeful step forward into the water. Instantly, the light of the ocean envelops her. But she doesn't vanish in fear or sadness. She turns and she smiles at the world one last time. It's this ultimate gesture of peace and closure. And then she willingly dissolves into the radiance alongside Ren. She's leaving the physical, mortal world behind, shedding the weight of her aged body to finally truly reunite with him in the light. Now, it's absolutely crucial to note that the story doesn't just end with them vanishing into nothingness. The author makes a very distinct point to define their ultimate legacy. They've remained together deep beneath the waves, sure, but they aren't just ghosts haunting the shoreline. They've become guardians of history. They are active protectors, stewards of the world's memory, watching over the generations to come. Their personal, intimate love story has quite literally been transformed into a universal force of protection for the very world that Aoi spent 40 years living in. Which leaves us with a lingering thought to reflect on as we wrap up this explainer. The text establishes that the ocean remembers all possible histories and choices. So, if that were true for us, what legacy would your choices leave behind in that radiant sea? Aoi and Ren left behind a legacy of immense patience, unbelievable sacrifice, and an enduring love that ultimately became a protective force for humanity. It's a pretty beautiful reminder of the weight of our own devotions, the things we're willing to wait for, and the impact of the duties we choose to shoulder. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible narrative with me today. Keep asking the big questions.